Hello and happy Taco Tuesday. I don't know why I always feel the need to do this, but it just felt right. Y'all, I have got to figure out. Y'all are moving with my camera and my standing desk thing. I have so many issues with getting my video equipment just right. So if you struggle with that, or if you struggle with getting your podcast equipment set up and doing all those things, just know you're not alone. You are not alone. And yeah, I have issues all the time. So hello from India. So happy that you're here, y'all. I love doing the weekly lives, and I'm glad that we're back on schedule. We kind of did, here and there and some all over the place this summer, but I feel like we have hit our stride once again, especially after last week. Last week, we did our 5-day podcast challenge. Shout out to all the challenge members that participated. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of live video. I went live every single day, Monday through Friday last week. And it was a lot, but it also got me back in the groove. I love it. I love it. Yeah, I'm happy too. So happy that you're here. Yes, because the live interaction with your audience is it's so much fun for your podcast, but also as a content creator in general. I think that there's nothing like live video. I don't always encourage people if they're like, oh my gosh, I feel the pressure to do all of my podcasting live and I need to show all the behind the scenes and I just need to share everything all the time. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. That's a lot, which is why I do these live streams at least once a week, sometimes a little bit more if we're in the middle of a launch. But I think it's just fun to check in with everybody. So if you have any questions, post them in the chat below. And if you could do one thing for me, put a Q in front of your questions. If you have podcast questions, you have questions about YouTube, you have questions about growing a podcast business, monetizing your podcast, whatever, put them in the comments below. But I want to actually tell you real fast about today's podcast episode. So if you have not already listened, let me show you. I have the Profit Podcast. Oh, see, look, I pointed it at the right time this way. I normally am like, wait, which way is it? The Profit Podcast. This is my weekly show. And today's episode is all about how to find strategic partners, what they are, what that relationship can look like. And I was really proud of this episode because whenever I first started doing my podcast, I had no idea what a strategic partner was because it is a little bit different than just someone that you're an affiliate for, right? It's different than just promoting a product that you're pretty distanced from the owners, the founders, the people that actually run the company, and you're just promoting something. That's very different than a strategic podcast partner or just a strategic partner for your business. So I really wanted to talk about that today. And in that episode, I share some examples from my own business, as well as ideas for you to find strategic partners for your business as well. So go check that out. Episode 285. We're getting close to 300. And I'm like, what should we do for the 300th episode of the podcast? I think we'll have to do another giveaway because those are fun. I mean, who doesn't love a giveaway? I gave away so many things. Oh, I don't have them over here anymore, do I? I gave away, where are they? I don't even know what I did with them. I have these door hangers that I got from my friends over at Buzzsprout. They are one of my strategic partners. So shout out to Buzzsprout. They're my podcast host that I've used forever. Hang on. I know I have. Oh, you see that little sticker, the green one up there? That's Buzzsprout. Burp, burp, right there. But I have these door hangers that say, "Quiet, please, podcasting in progress." And that's what I gave away last week for the podcast challenge. So maybe I'll have to snag a few more of those and do a big giveaway when we hit episode 300 in the next few weeks, because that'll be pretty cool. So go check out today's episode. Yeah. Hello, Melanie. Melanie in the house. Oh, Melanie actually this is a really good question that Roddy has. Nobody joins, or I guess it's not a question, it's more of a statement. And Melanie is actually a live stream. She's my go-to live stream expert. So y'all go follow Melanie Diane. She does her live videos on Tuesdays in the afternoon. I do mine in the mornings. So hers are at 2 p.m. Eastern and mine are 10 a.m. Central. So like go make sure you can go. But your statement is nobody joins my live stream. That's very demotivating. I've tried 2 to 3 times and finally stopped. Okay. I have a lot to say about this from my own personal experience, but Mel, if you're here, I would love for you to chime in on this and give Roddy some motivation and encouragement. But when I first started, y'all, and it's been years now, okay? I've been live streaming for years. I still remember to this day the very first time I went live on Periscope. That was in 2015-ish, 2015, 2016. I thought my heart was going to beat out of my chest. I was so like, oh my gosh, is this actually happening? I was really, really nervous because I thought that I was going to have this flood of people like come in and start immediately watching me. And I thought that, oh my gosh, as soon as I hit the live button, I'm going to be in front of thousands of people and I have to have the right thing to say. I have the right thing to do. Nobody was watching. Nobody was watching. Nobody cared what I had to say. I think I might have been live for less than 5 minutes. And it was terrifying. So that's the real deal on how it was for me the first time I went live. Then fast forward to 2018, and there was someone I heard at a conference. She was talking about Facebook Live. Facebook Live was all the things. We need to be doing it all the time. And I was like, okay, I'm going to commit to going live 4 days a week. No, I think it was actually 5 days a week at that time. I did a lot of lives in the beginning and nobody watched them. Nobody watched them. Nobody cared. Nobody was around. And I am grateful for that because I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing. I was not looking at, like right now, I'm looking at, this is my camera right in front of me. I'm looking into the lens of my camera. Whenever I was going live before, I would do it on my phone and I would look at my phone. But y'all, do you see this right up here? This is the lens of the camera on the phone. Oh, it's not going to do it. Oh, we got to do the thing where see, I can't ever do this, y'all. See, I'm not great live, but I was not looking here. I was looking at myself, my face on the screen. I wasn't looking into the lens of the camera. So I wasn't really making that connection with my audience whenever I went live doing all those Facebook lives. But I learned. I kept learning. Then I realized what my audience wanted me to speak about. And then I realized, oh, they actually wanted me to deliver this type of content over this type of content. And I just kept going and learning. So bottom line, I'm glad that you have done it. Like you've already ripped the Band-Aid off, right? You've done the hardest part, which is just going live for the very first time. I feel like is the hardest part because you're putting yourself out there, you're being vulnerable. And even if nobody's watching, no one can ever take that very first live stream away from you. Like once you've done it, okay, awesome. You have nowhere to go but up from here. So I hope that that is encouraging. And then Melanie says, a lot of it comes down to how you schedule and promote your streams. Also, consistency. I could not agree with this anymore. Melanie and I are 100% on the same page when it comes to consistency. But I will say that the tools that are available now help you be more consistent and notify your audience before you go live, right? Because I know Mel, she has a regular show that she does, and it's always at the same time. It's at the same place, and it's on the Tuesday every day. Like I could tell you exactly when she goes live because she does it so consistently. It's 2 p.m. Eastern time every Tuesday. that's when she goes live. It's hard for me to say that because that's 1 p.m. Central for me, but she's Eastern. So I know that that's how like she talks about it and promotes it. Y'all, I have gotten to be a pro at like world time zone conversions. Well, I'm not world. Let me take that back. I can do East, Central, Pacific very well. Mountain still throws me off. I don't always get my mountain times correct. But anyway, whenever you can schedule out and tell people about it before, like schedule it, promote it, and make it happen and go out there on a consistent basis, people will show up. People will show up. I'm not guaranteeing that you're going to have hundreds of people. Y'all, I don't have hundreds of people. I have almost 3,000 people on my YouTube channel, and we don't have hundreds of people live right now while we're recording this. So just because you have a lot of followers or a lot of people that are in your network, it doesn't guarantee that you're always going to have tons of people there. So that's just another like quick tip behind the scenes, that even as you grow your audience, you may still only have 10 to 15 people that show up for a live stream. And I think it's great. I think 10 to 15 people is fantastic because you can serve those people that are there. And hopefully, people will go back and watch replays of what you're creating. And even better, if you're taking that and you're using it as a podcast episode in the future. This is actually something I'm going to be talking at a conference in October, and we're talking about repurposing content, whether it's podcast episodes that you've created and you want to turn it into another piece of content, or it's a podcast episode that you want to repurpose it into a YouTube. I do this all the time. So let me give you a quick behind the scenes of my repurposing strategy when it comes to podcast and YouTube. What I will do is I have a content calendar. I actually have many content calendars, but I have like, let's break this down real fast. Okay. While everybody is here and we're talking about the subject of going live and podcasting, because I am not the go live expert. I want y'all to go check out Melanie. Here she is. You see her face. Go check her out on YouTube. She is my go-to resource for live streaming. But whenever it comes to creating my podcast episodes and my YouTube videos, there's an overlap in content, and it's very intentional because it makes my life easier. So I'll look at my YouTube calendar, I look at my podcast calendar, and I say, how can I take information from one and bring it to the other? And what will happen most often is my podcast is longer. It's a longer piece of content, right? Whenever it's pre-recorded, it could be anywhere from 20 minutes to 45 minutes to an hour and a half if I have like a long interview that I'm sharing. So that is a very long piece of content that I wouldn't necessarily want to take that and put it up on YouTube just the way that it is. Because with YouTube, I could actually chop that interview or chop that, podcast episode into several different pieces and then put it up as a YouTube video. If I was recording a video podcast, like what I'm doing right now, if I were to take this and strip the audio from it and put it out as a podcast episode, that's great. But that's not how I create my content, because I'm just going to be really honest. When I record my podcast episodes, it throws me off if I have a camera in my face. It's very different if we're here and I'm live streaming with the intention of interacting with you and answering your questions. But if I am trying to educate and truly tell stories on my podcast, which is what I do, again, go listen to the show, go listen to the Profit Podcast if you've never heard it. But I do a lot of educating. I have notes. I have my Asana here. I will actually give y'all. Do you want an example? Do y'all want to see what this looks like on the back end? I can show you what today's podcast episode actually looked like. Hang on, 285 on the rough version of it, because I look at these notes whenever I am creating my podcast, as opposed to whenever I do live streams. Most of the time I'm not looking at my notes. I'm just going. We're just talking. This is our weekly show. Let me go full screen here for a second because I want to show this to you. So this is my project management tool that I use called Asana. And I have, you see up here, it says podcast 285. So I know what podcast episode this is. This was for me to do because I assigned it to myself. The due date was for today. I set all of this up in Asana. This is my content calendar. So if you've never seen how all this works, this is done kind of like in a list form, but this is like the bigger task that I'm using to create it. I could show you in a second. I'll show you my content calendar in a second. Why not while we're here? I've created YouTube videos about this as well, how I use Asana and Google Sheets together to create my weekly podcast content. But while we're here, this is what I'll do is I will come in and I plan out, what do I want this to be? What am I going to talk about? I actually talked about Melanie. If you're still here, I don't know if you knew this, but I talked about you being amazing with the recent StreamYard Summit. And that was a strategic partnership for you. And the really cool thing that came up about it, I'm not going to spoil it. Okay. Y'all have to go listen to the podcast episode to see how incredible Melanie was and the special guests that she got to meet and introduce and have a Q&A session with. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I talked about Melanie in this episode about strategic partnerships. But this is what I did is so I go in and I plan everything. Y'all, I look at all of this. Whenever I'm recording, I'm looking at my notes. I have my Hindenburg open in this other screen, and I want to make sure that I have like all the things going at all the time. And I can't do that when I'm live streaming. It's too much. It's too much because I want this interaction. Like, do you feel connected? Like, tell me in the comments. Like, I want to see some comments going off or give me an emoji, something that lets me know that you feel more connected when someone is presenting information, talking to you when they're looking at you. Like, how do you feel if I were to just be like this the whole time? Not looking at the screen, I'm looking at my notes, and it's more like you over here. I'm like trying to find the camera. Over here, you are more or less an onlooker. You're a spectator if I'm staring this way the whole time at my screen. But when I turn to you like this, all of a sudden, oh, she's looking right at me. Like I was telling people the other day, my 5-year-old does this all the time. He kind of gets these eyes and he'll do this. I'm like, what does this mean? Does this mean I'm in trouble? He's like, I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you. I'm like, okay, I think he got it from a movie somewhere. But there's a very big difference. And whenever I'm live streaming, I like to be here. I like to be here engaging with you. Yeah, I'll look away. I'll look at some notes. I'll look at some other things that I'm doing whenever I'm live streaming. But whenever I'm podcasting, I have to look at my notes. And I speak from experience on it just doesn't work really well for me to record my podcast and live stream at the same time. It's just a really different experience. Yeah. I feel like authenticity, know you. Oh yeah. I authentically know you from your lives. Yes. I definitely try to show up as often as possible, like consistently, like Melanie was saying, because I want people to feel like they know at least a little bit more about me on my live streams, because on the podcast, we can have one type of connection, but it does make a really big difference when you can see somebody's face. This is what I'll tell people who are like, I got into podcasting, so I didn't have to get on video. And I'm like, okay, I get that. I understand it. However, doing a live every once in a while, like once a week, it's doable. Getting on Instagram stories, that's a fantastic place to start because it goes away. I can't even tell you how many times I've done a story where I'm like, oh, thank God this goes away in 24 hours because I look like an idiot. Or I realized there was like dead skin on my nose and it looked like I had a booger hanging out of my nose. Like there's been so many where I'll look at it or my husband will say something to me because he's like, I watched your story. Did you know that, there was like a whole bunch of dirty clothes in the background or, there was this or that. And I'm like, oh, well, it goes away in 24 hours. Like, I just don't care. I really don't. Like, it doesn't bother me. But I have only gotten to that point because I've done it so many times. so many times. Like it is just so much. Yeah, Crystal is looking at us through the screen. But I'm not, it's not creepy, right? It's not a creepy thing. I'm not like spying on you. That's funny. That's definitely what it makes it feel. It's like, oh, she's looking like right at us. She's looking deep into my soul whenever she stares at the screen. But it does make all the difference. And I know Melanie, she talks about this all the time. It's like that connection that you make with your people whenever you show up live. And it's like all of these different components that can really help you make that different connection or differentiating connection, different connection. I don't know. I shouldn't try to use big words because then I just get tripped up about it. But you know what I'm saying? Like there's a big difference from just showing up and you have your camera on and you're not really engaging with your people, which is what I would do when I would record my podcast, or showing up like this, answering questions like that. This is the purpose. We're talking about content and repurposing and everything. This is the purpose of me showing up every week to do this. I want to answer your questions about your podcast. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat. I hate it when my husband says, "Did you know?" Because I know something embarrassing happened. Oh my gosh. So quick story. And this is like, it's not TMI, but it's like definitely one of the reasons why I got, so I started last year doing Invisalign. So I was in the middle of a big promotion, like a launch. I was doing a launch of, it was an affiliate partner launch. And I was doing a lot of IG stories. And I was doing this IG story and I was like, no, I don't want to post it yet because I recorded it as like a video on my phone. I was like, I'm going to record it here first and then I'm going to post it. Well, then I was like, I did it. And then my husband saw it. Speaking of, did you know? My husband saw it and he was like, do you notice like your bottom teeth are kind of crooked? I did not notice that before. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't either because I never looked at my teeth. Why would I ever look at my teeth? If I'm usually in pictures, I'm just smiling, right? I'm smiling. You can't even see because of my lip. You normally can't even see my bottom teeth. I wasn't doing YouTube videos. I wasn't doing a ton of Facebook lives that I would like have my mouth open in a weird way that you could see inside my mouth. But I did. I decided to go ahead and get Invisalign because I was self-conscious after my husband was like, did you know? I'm like, oh, okay. Like maybe I should straighten it up. Turns out it was one of the best things that I could have done because my bite was really, really off. And my orthodontist, like thousands of dollars later, it's so expensive to do Invisalign, have kids in braces. We already have our oldest. He went through phase 1 of braces. Now he's in phase 2. And then our middle son is also doing braces. Y'all, I was like, do you want to go to college? Do you want to get braces? Like that's really legitimately, it's crazy expensive. So if you have kids, start saving for braces. If you had braces, I didn't have braces when I was a kid. I had wisdom teeth that like screwed up my whole like bottom, all this business. We're just getting in the TMI. I know y'all didn't ask anything about Invisalign, but it was just a story. I had to share a good story. If you choose to do episode-specific artwork, do you know if it needs to be square like the cover art? Ooh, okay. This is really good. So I do have a YouTube video about this, but let me go because I use Buzzsprout. I was talking about them earlier. And let me see. Okay. If I do that one, I think it's going to mess up. So let me go inside the potty report because I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you all exactly what Catrice is asking about. Let me see. This is today's episode for the potty report. I know y'all can't see that. So if you have a Buzzsprout account, this is what it looks like. This is today's podcast episode. I would show you the Profit podcast, but it doesn't, I already did this, so it wouldn't be very helpful. But Catrice, I don't know if you're using Buzzsprout, But if you go in here, this is for visual soundbite. Okay. Well, let's go back to the original question that you had. You said podcast specific artwork. If you're using it for Buzzsprout, it tells you, excuse me, right down here, it says it's 1400 by 3000 pixels. So they will tell you right there what it needs to be. And then I want to say, and I'll go in and we'll verify this in a second. I want to say it's 1800 by 1800 if you're doing it for the artwork specific soundbite. Does that make sense? If you have more questions about it, ask me. But I do have a YouTube video all about uploading custom artwork for a visual soundbite in Buzzsprout. So let me know. But you can also create custom artwork in Canva and it defaults, like, let me just click on this. I'm pretty sure it defaults to the size. Yeah, this is 3000 by 3000 and then it'll send it to Buzzsprout. So I guess it's going to go ahead and it would be fine to go with what this is defaulting to, because I'm pretty sure this would be what they're requiring. I couldn't imagine another reason. So yes, I'm assuming, back to your original question, that it could be 3000 by 3000. I don't know. I guess they make it a little bit smaller. Oh, you can't see that. I'm highlighting this down here, but this is what they recommend. Now, let's go back up to creating a visual soundbite. I'm just going to click. I'm going to say, sure, the first 30 seconds of this sounds good. Right here, it defaults to your artwork. Here, I'll go full screen. It defaults to what your artwork would be, right? It has the logo for the potty report right here. But if I wanted to upload custom, like that, this is what I do for my show, I would select that and I could still just use the logo and that would be fine. But down here, okay, so it's 1080 by 1080. And I do know, because I can tell you, I've had my artwork, the custom artwork rejected before. If it's too big, even if you size it as like 1080 by 1080, try saving it as a JPEG instead of a PNG file. Because I save most of my images as a PNG because it has higher resolution. But if you save it as a JPEG, it's usually a smaller file. Sorry if that was like super technical and a lot more than you wanted, but that's just kind of where my mind goes whenever I think about that. Can you please speak on video podcasting? So happy that you're here. This is my friend from Nigeria. Happy that you're here. So we were just talking about this a second ago when it comes to video podcasting. And I get this question a lot. Should I do it? Do I need to do it in the beginning? Am I missing out if I haven't been video podcasting for the last 5 years? No, you're not missing out on anything, but it's also something that I want you to consider after you've been podcasting for a little while. Now, I say that only because most people that are coming to me wanting to start a podcast haven't been doing live videos. They don't have a YouTube channel. They don't do Facebook Live regularly. They don't do IGTV. They just don't do a ton of videos. And I believe that if you dive in headfirst into videos and podcasting, it could throw you off a little bit, because all of a sudden you're going from, when you're just podcasting, maybe you could do it without having a camera, right? I wouldn't have a camera in my face looking at me. But I would just be no hair, no makeup, like nothing, like no preparation beforehand. I could just sit down and talk comfortably behind the scenes without the pressure of having a camera on me. But when you're on here, it's a little bit different for some people. Not everyone. There are some people that just feel super comfortable, super confident on camera, and they can deliver an entire podcast without messing up, without having any mistakes, without having any long pauses or losing their train of thought, because they're just really good at naturally speaking. But that's not always the case for everybody. So when it comes to doing a video podcast, if you feel very, very comfortable with camera, maybe consider doing it. But if you don't, I would recommend doing your podcast for at least 3 to 6 months of getting your content down. You know what you're doing. You know what your audience wants. You know how long your episodes are going to be before you throw in the complication of also doing a video podcast. Now, the only other thing I would say is when it comes to video podcasting, and I have a few podcast episodes, especially on the Potty Report. So if y'all didn't know this, some people don't know this, I have another podcast. It is the Potty Report. We were just talking about it here. This is my daily show that's 5 minutes or less, Monday through Friday. And I share a lot of quick tips behind the scenes. I share my thoughts, my musings, my creative ideas. It's really a fun creative outlet for me. And it's just all over across the board. It's still about podcasting. It's still about my podcast business, but it's just a more of not straight up planned content as much as the Profit Podcast. But we've talked about video podcasting on there because this question has come up so much more now, especially because apps like StreamYard, which is what I'm using. If you want to check out StreamYard, you can go to crystalprofit.com/StreamYard to check it out. But it is what allows me, I could record this video, and whenever we're done here, there's an option for me to hit download recording. I could download the audio file from this and then upload that as a podcast episode. If you're talking on your lives about what you talk about on your podcast, that can absolutely work. I don't do that for these live streams simply because I'm usually answering questions and I don't know. I think it's fun to have this content live here, maybe in the future. I mean, I already do 2 podcast episodes a week for the Profit Podcast. I do 5 episodes for the Potty Report. I go live here. I do my weekly email. Like, it's a lot of content already. And I think that adding another podcast episode would be a bit much for my audience. But I do like it for someone that is like, I just don't know how I'm going to create content. I have no idea. But I know I feel really comfortable on video, and I know that I can deliver a 10, 15-minute, education or interview without getting interrupted, and I wouldn't have to go back and edit the video or edit the audio. I could just upload it. Then awesome. Then you would probably be great to start a video podcast. But those are just my personal thoughts on it. I think it's just going to depend on the person's skill level, how confident they feel about the systems, and processes. But yeah, if y'all have any more questions, let me know. And this is like shaking all over the place because I hit it. I left Buzzsprout and returned back to Anchor. I was paying BS. Anchor pays me. My podcast is just too small right now. And I've had other people say that they like Anchor. I've never used it. I've never used another platform besides Buzzsprout. So I think, whatever works for you and your podcast, then that's what you should definitely go with. Yeah, Catrice, that was perfect. Okay. So I want y'all to tell me if y'all have any other questions about your podcast. I'm going to be here for a little bit longer. I'm happy to answer any questions. Put a Q at the front. But I want to tell you real fast about a really cool course creation bootcamp that my mentor, Amy Porterfield, is doing that she just opened not too long ago. And I wanted to come tell you about it. Let me see. I have this here. So it's a 30-day course creation bootcamp. Let me go here. I'm going to show you what it is because people ask me all the time, when you start a podcast, how do you monetize? When you start a podcast, how can I start making money? Because I don't have a really big audience, or I don't have a ton of listeners, and I just don't know how to get started making money with the podcast. And the first place that I always default to, because it's how I got started with making money, was creating a digital course. And my friend and mentor, Amy Porterfield, is doing a free bootcamp right now. So it's a 30-day bootcamp. If you were in the challenge last week and you liked what I did, she's next level. She is next level when it comes to creating an experience for you to just feel connected to a community and really getting your questions answered. So she has a team of, I want to say there's at least 6 or 7 of her team members that are constantly in this community answering questions about creating a digital course, what it's like to get started. So let me tell you a little bit more about it. So when you go to the link, crystalprofit.com/Amy 2021 Bootcamp, this is what you'll see. So you can just say, click say no more. I'm in. You'll put in your first name and your email. But if you're like, I want to know more about what this is about, you can come down to right here. This is the part where I would advise you start looking at, well, what's in it for me? Because, right, you're like, I'm busy. I don't know that I have time to go through 30 days. Like, what is my commitment, right? So what she's doing is she's helping you answer questions that most people have before they ever start creating a digital course, because this is what she does. Like, this is literally all her business is about, is helping you start and launch a digital course. And the different topics that she has throughout this 30-day boot camp are right here. So one is choosing your course topic, starting and growing your email list with quality subscribers. Y'all, I cannot tell you how important it is to have an email list. And this is the woman that I learned that from. Like, I'd heard her say it. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's great. It's fantastic. The power of an email list really showed up for me recently on my launch that I just wrapped up. I sent one email, this one particular email. I scheduled it. I sent it out. I made $1,000 from one email that I sent to my list. That is the power of having quality people on your list and having them engaged. And she is the person that I learned that from. So I highly recommend joining us for that reason alone and understanding how important a quality email list is. The third one, deciding on what type of course that you're going to create, crafting a stellar course name, pricing your course. This was something I really struggled with whenever I was this is before I met Amy and all the things that she does. I priced my course really, really low. And I think I sold 5 maybe, and it was $38. Y'all, I don't even think I made $100 the first time I launched my course. And my mom was one of the people that bought it. Okay. I'm just saying, like, my mom was one of my very first customers. I had no idea what it was like to price a course and do any of that. So I learned a lot of these strategies from Amy, and how she teaches it just made so much more sense than just like, hey, I'll just pick a random number and throw it out there and see what happens. Scheduling your course launch date. This is so, so, so important. If you are part of the 5-day podcast challenge last week, we talked about the power of having a launch date and what that looks like, and really just holding yourself accountable to getting it out there, right? Because it's one thing to sit around and say, I'd like to have a course one day. I'd like to have a podcast one day. But until you actually commit, put a date on the calendar and say, this is the date, I'm going to make it happen, it's probably not going to happen. So making that step, making that commitment it just makes all the difference in the world. And then the step 7 is decide what you'll start or stop doing in your business. This is really, really important whenever it comes to prioritizing what you need to do first. And then celebrating. This is like something that they do so well over at Team Porterfield. They're always constantly celebrating whenever you get a big win or a small win, or you make a new connection, you find someone that would be a perfect fit for your course. Like, there's so many ways to celebrate, and you're going to find a very familiar face because I am in the boot camp. I'm actually really active in there because I think it's a lot of fun to, I just believe in karma. I'm a very, very big believer in karma, that whenever you learn how to do something, you turn around and you help the people behind you, right? Like, there's one thing about, being a trailblazer and like going ahead, But there's something about turning around and saying, okay, avoid this rock, jump over that hurdle, like sidestep this obstacle because it will make your life so much easier. And that's one of the reasons why I like to be super active. This is the second year that she's done this boot camp. It was so much fun last year. It was so much fun. And it's only for a limited time. Like she doesn't do it all year. It's just 30 days. And they have already started, but you can always catch up. There's all instructions, videos, her team's there to help. There's like 15,000 people in there. There's a lot of people in there. So if you're looking for people to like, I just need a group to help me get ideas for what kind of course I would create or how I could use this to monetize my podcast, or there's just so many ways that you can use this community for. And the main reason is to find community. There's so many people that tell me that they're lonely online. Being online and doing this online business is so lonely. Go in there. Please go in there and find the people that you can surround yourself with to cheer you on, to hold you accountable, and to help you take all of these ideas that you have out of your head and then actually put them into action. So that's all I have to share with y'all today. If y'all have any other questions, reach out, message me, but I hope you join us in the 30-day boot camp because it's a lot of fun. Okay. Like I said, it is a lot. We are having a lot of fun in there. You're going to see at least one familiar face because I will be in there every day answering questions, like commenting. And if you join, then say, hey, Crystal sent me, or tag me. You'll be able to tag me because I'm in the group. So tag me and say, hey, I'm here. You told me about it on today's live and I showed up. Introduce yourself and we'd love to see you in the community. But that's all I have for you today, guys. So have a fantastic Taco Tuesday and I'll see y'all later. Bye.